So, the CBSE just dropped its new curriculum. And listen, you gotta understand, this is not just some small tweak for the next school year. We're talking about a complete foundational redesign of Indian education. This is literally the roadmap for the next decade of learning.
Yeah, let's just pause on this for a second, because this quote, it says everything. The people behind this plan, they're playing the long game. This isn't about acing next year's board exams. No way. It's about building the professionals of the 2030s, what skills they'll need, how they'll think, and what their cultural foundation will be.
All right, so to really get our heads around this huge shift, here's how we're going to break it down. First, we'll look at the big picture, this decade-long roadmap. Then we'll get into the why. What's the thinking behind all this? After that, it's the nitty-gritty, the new curriculum, the timeline for when it all happens, and the most important part, what it actually means for you.
So first up, let's talk about this roadmap. You know, the main idea here is to give everyone some breathing room, some clarity. Instead of these constant, yearly little changes that can drive everyone crazy, this new plan lines up with the National Education Policy 2020. It's designed to be a stable, predictable framework for pretty much everyone involved, all the way to 2031.
And this isn't just a small update. The people behind this use a great analogy. They say it's not like building a brand new house on an empty plot. Nope. It's like having to reconstruct the house you're already living in. I mean, think about that. It's way more complicated, right? You're dealing with existing structures, old plumbing. That's exactly what's happening here. This is a total overhaul, right down to the foundations.
Which, of course, brings us to the big question, why? Why do all this now? What's the core philosophy that's driving such a massive transformation? Okay, this right here really lays it all out. It's a classic out with the old, in with the new. The new vision is taking direct aim at the big problems of the old system. So we're shifting away from just memorizing facts for an exam and this whole problem of Marx inflation. Instead, the focus is now on hands-on, experiential learning what you can do. And just as big a deal is this move away from what they call a colonial mindset toward an education that's really truly rooted in Indian culture.
And listen to this quote from the director of NCERT. That's the organization that actually creates the curriculum. He says, "The decolonization of the mind is the first thing to be done." Wow. That just shows you how deep this goes. The goal isn't just about changing textbooks. It's about changing how students see themselves and their place in the world. It's about building citizens who are proud of who they are, where they come from, but can also compete with anyone on the global stage.
All right, so we've talked about the big ideas. Now let's get down to brass tacks. What's actually going to change in the classroom? What are students in classes 9 through 12, their parents and their teachers, what are they going to experience day to day?
First off, and this is a big one, computational thinking and AI are now mandatory subjects. But here's the really cool part. In the early grades, starting from class 3, it's unplugged. That means no computers. The whole idea is to teach the logic, the problem-solving skills behind the tech, without being tied to a device. It's all about building that solid mental foundation first.
Next up is the 3-language formula. This is going to be compulsory all the way up to class 10. Now for the board exams, there's a new twist. Students will be tested at 2 different competency levels, R1, which is the highest level of proficiency, and R2. So you'll have to decide for your 2 main languages which one you want to take at the R1 level and which at R2.
And here's something else that's new, optional advanced level subjects. Right now, it's for subjects like math and science. This is basically for those kids who just get it and need a bigger challenge. The goal here is to push them, keep them interested, and help them figure out what they're truly good at early on. You know, to avoid that whole nightmare of picking the wrong stream in class 11.
But here's the absolute best part about this, and it's super important. This is all about encouragement, not stress. If a student goes for an advanced level subject and doesn't end up clearing it, there is no penalty. Nothing negative shows up on their mark sheet. It's basically a free shot to challenge themselves without any fear of failure.
And check this out. This really shows how the focus is shifting to a more well-rounded education. On top of the core subjects we all know, a bunch of new areas are now compulsory for everybody. We're talking about things like vocational ed, art, PE and well-being, and even interdisciplinary studies. The whole point is to make sure every single student graduates with a much broader set of skills. Because let's face it, that's what the future is all about, being adaptable.
Okay, so you're probably wondering, when is all this going to hit? Well, the good news is, they're not just flipping a switch overnight. This whole thing is going to be rolled out in phases over the next few years.
So here's the timeline. Let's walk through it. In 2027, we'll see the very last board exams under the old language rules. Then, in 2028, the first batch of students will take their exams with the new R1, R2 language levels, and they'll also get the option for those advanced subjects. Fast forward to 2029. That's when the first compulsory board assessment for AI and computational thinking kicks in. And finally, by 2031, the whole three-language formula will be fully up and running in the Class 10 boards. All right, so we have the plan, we have the timeline. Now let's get to what really matters. How is this going to affect the people on the front lines? The students, the teachers, the parents, everyone.
Because at the end of the day, this is the million-dollar question, isn't it? How does all this theory and policy actually change the day-to-day life in the CBSE world?
And this pretty much sums it up. It's a huge shift for absolutely everyone. For students, expect your classrooms to get a lot more interesting. We're talking less about just memorizing facts and more about doing things, about hands-on activities. For teachers, this is a fundamental change in how they teach. They're no longer just covering the syllabus. Their job is to make sure you actually understand things deeply. For parents, this might be the biggest mindset shift of all. You've got to start looking past just the marks. The real prize here is skills and critical thinking. And for schools, well, this is a huge logistical puzzle. They've got to figure out new timetables, train their teachers, and somehow fit in AI, art, and all these new subjects for everyone.
And look, for this whole new vision to actually work, it's going to take a massive team effort. Its success really hinges on one thing. Everyone, and I mean everyone, from the school administration down to the teachers and parents, has to carefully follow and implement these new rules and regulations. This isn't just about a new policy document. It's about a shared commitment, a collective responsibility to see these changes through and build a genuinely better future for our kids.
So, there you have it. The blueprint is on the table. It's incredibly detailed, wildly ambitious, and it's definitely playing the long game. But here's the question that hangs in the air. Will it work? Will this giant overhaul actually produce the globally competitive, culturally rooted Indian graduate that it promises? The plan is there, but only time will tell if the building matches the blueprint.